Hello and welcome to the Proposition 1 Round 2 Full Proposal Overview. Before I begin, I want to provide some links you can use to send us questions and comments and also get additional information about the Groundwater Grant Program. So if you have any questions and comments, please send them to gwquality.funding@waterboards.ca.gov. And any additional information you may need is on our website. Here are the topics I'll be going over as part of the presentation. First of all, I'll give an overview of the Round 2 full proposal. Then I'll talk about attachments that are necessary for the implementation and planning full proposal. I'll then go over scoring criteria and also cover some tips for completing the full proposals. And we'll finish up with a general timeline for completing the grant agreements. Now this slide shows the necessary steps needed to complete the full proposal. First off, you'll go to the FAAST website and then log on using your existing username and password. What you need to do is access the existing applications menu. From there, open the Phase 2 application for your full proposal. It's important that you review the notes from the Groundwater Grant Program staff, and that's located on the feedback tab of that page. Fill out the requested information on each tab and open the attachment and upload the required information. Before you submit it, make sure you review your full proposal for completeness. Now we're going to go over the full proposal as it looks in FAAST. So log in using the username and password you used for the concept proposal. So this is step 4 in the flowchart that we just went over. Select the active applications under existing applications heading. That's shown in the upper part of the slide. So for step 5 in the flowchart, your application should show up in the highlighted area. As I said, the PIN number for your proposal will be the same as the concept proposal that you submitted. The next step in the flowchart is reviewing the notes provided by DFA staff. To access these notes, go to the feedback tab located along the top of the page of your application. You'll also notice there are points of contact for coordinating with DFA and the regional board if you want to schedule a meeting to discuss the comments. That's located in the red area just highlighted. The full proposal contains various attachments that contain key project components such as background, scope of work, schedule, and budget. Key thing I want to point out is to make sure you use the templates that are provided. Any attachments that do not follow the template will not be reviewed, so you have to make sure that you use the templates that are provided. Also, make sure to carefully read the instructions for each attachment and adhere to the page limitations. In some cases, you may be required to build on information that is presented in previous attachments, as you'll see later as we go through this. So there are several tabs which must be completed in FAAST. This slide shows the questionnaire tab for an implementation proposal. As you can see up top, we have a link for our guidelines if you want to reference our guidelines. It also shows links to all the different attachments that you need to be complete. Okay, so now I'll go over the 11 attachments that are part of the implementation proposal. Attachments 1 and 2 are for the project applicant background, and the topics covered in this attachment will include a project overview, a discussion of any responsible parties, the applicant experience and knowledge, Any coordination with cooperating agencies, discussion on long-term O&M, and also supporting documents. Attachment 3 is for program priorities, requirements, and preferences. Information on these can be found starting on page 4 of the Prop 1 Groundwater Grant Program Guidelines. Again, as I said, there is a link to the guidelines in the FAAST questionnaire page. Attachments 4 and 5 are for the scope of work. These attachments should have a description of the work performed under each task and also include sufficient detail to justify that the work completed will achieve or lead up to the project goals. Attachment 6 is for the schedule. So information in this attachment must demonstrate that the project can be completed within the appropriation timeframe. The appropriation timeframe is June of the year 2023. The schedule must be consistent with the scope of work and the budget. It also needs to include a Gantt or similar type of chart and a narrative that should include milestones, applicable permits, and activities for closeout. Attachment 7 is for the budget. In this attachment, you'll need to provide a budget summary and a budget detail. You will see these tabs when you open that attachment in the spreadsheet. You also see that there are 5 budget categories. So these 5 budget categories must be described in the schedule, and they can't be modified. In addition, the budget categories must match the categories listed in the scope and the schedule. So the budget, scope, and schedule should have all 5 of those categories in there. Attachment 8 is a cost-benefit analysis. In this, you'll need to provide an explanation on how the project costs are worth the benefits that are claimed. You also have to describe the benefits that are reflected in the metrics of success that you completed in Attachment 3, which is the program priorities, requirements, and preferences. Another important thing to discuss is any assumptions that you made that could affect the selection of the preferred alternative from the alternative selected. So Attachment 9 contains a table where you need to list the kinds of performance measures or metrics of success that might apply to your project. You can use the metrics of success that you had in Attachment 3 and also in Attachment 8. You'll also need to discuss how the proposed monitoring is adequate to evaluate the outcomes and also how the data will be managed and stored and maintained in the long term. Attachment 10 is for disadvantaged communities and economically distressed areas. This attachment needs to be completed only if you're applying for grant reduction. So please coordinate with DFA staff for assistance if you're requesting a match reduction. Attachment 11 is for general compliance documentation. Now this attachment contains a series of templates for you to fill out and submit with the full proposal. These documents will be used to expedite the grant agreement if your project is awarded funding. Some of the documents included in this attachment include a scope of work template, example of a resolution, project director certification, an example of a legal opinion, the water meter certification, and CEQA forms, or link to CEQA forms. We also have general compliance requirements in there as well. I want to highlight or note that if any of these items can't be submitted in the final form, then you must provide justification explaining why it cannot be submitted, and also project when the final document will be available for submission. So after all these attachments are completed, they should be uploaded using the Attachment tab in FAAST. Also, please follow the naming conventions that are provided. So this slide shows the questionnaire tab for planning proposals. It looks similar to the implementation proposals. As you can see, there's a link to our guidelines up top, and it has links for the attachments that you need to fill out. So the attachments for the planning proposal are the same for the implementation, but there are 2 fewer attachments. It does not include a cost-benefit analysis or a performance evaluation and monitoring attachments. Other than that, the attachments are the same as the implementation proposal. So I won't go into detail describing them, since I just went over those for the implementation. So both implementation and planning proposals will be competitively scored by a technical review team. The review team will consist of staff from DFA, Division of Drinking Water, the regional water boards, and possibly the Department of Water Resources and DTSC. So the scoring criteria for implementation projects can be found in Appendix F of the guidelines, and scoring criteria for planning projects can be found in Appendix E. Again, there's the link in the FAAST questionnaire tab to access the guidelines. So I'll briefly go over the point values for each criteria for the implementation projects. So for the project applicant background, that's worth 55 points. Project priorities, requirements, and preferences are worth 30. The scope of work is worth 40 points. Schedules worth 20. The budget is worth 25, and performance evaluation and monitoring is worth 15. If you apply and are accepted for DAC benefits, there will be a 20-point bonus for that. So make sure to review Appendix F for more detailed information. It will give you an idea of what the reviewers will be considering with regard to each scoring criteria. So here's the scoring point value criteria for the planning proposal. Again, project applicant background is worth 40. The project priorities, requirements, and preferences are worth 25. Scope of work is worth 40, and schedule and budget are worth 15 points each. Again, for the DAC, projects that qualify for DAC benefits will get a 15-point bonus. And again, make sure to review Appendix E for information, and that will give you an idea of what the reviewers will be considering when they score your proposal. So these next 2 slides show some helpful tips for you to complete the full proposal. Make sure to contact local regulatory staff while developing the project. This will ensure you get feedback from these agencies regarding your project. Want to make sure there are no surprises or expectations from either side. Like I said earlier, the contact information for the agencies can be found in the feedback tab in FAAST. And DFA staff will coordinate with the agencies to ensure that the project is considered a high priority and during the technical review of all proposals. So what we want to highlight here are the lessons learned from the round 1 proposals. Make sure to carefully read the instructions on each attachment. Also review the scoring criteria to make sure the information you provided meets all the criteria. And finally, please provide a detailed scope, schedule, and budget that are consistent with each other. Here's a general timeline going forward for the round 2 proposals. If you request a meeting with us, if you have any questions or request a meeting with us to go over your full proposal, you need to do that by December 12th. As you know, the full proposal due date is February 18th of 2019. After that, we will score their proposals and send out award letters probably late spring or early summer of 2019. After that, we will work on finalizing the grant agreement, and we expect to have the grant agreements executed by late next year. So if you want more information, again, please go to our website shown here on the slide. Thank you for listening to this webcast. We hope it provided you useful information in preparing your proposal.